Proverbs 13:22 says, "A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children." And Proverbs 3:15 says, "Wisdom is more profitable than silver, and her gain is better than fine gold. She's more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire compares with her. Long life is in her right hand, and in her left hand are riches and honor." My name is Daniel Foley, and several years ago, I came across that verse in Proverbs 13:22 that says, "A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children." And I began to think, what's more valuable than money that I could pass on to my kids and hopefully grandkids one day? And that is wisdom. What if I began to create books or manuals or courses or things that I could pass on to my kids and grandkids for how to live a better life, for stories and steps of faith that I'd taken in my own life and passing on lessons to them so they could have a better life? Because the reality is they could just spend all the money, but if they had wisdom, they could get the money and learn how to live a better life as well. Which ultimately led, when I made that commitment, it led to me writing books. I've written several books. One of them is 7 Days with Jesus, you see here, crossing over into abundant life. The second book I wrote was called Cracking Heaven's Code, God's System for Restoring Abundant Health. And the motivation behind these books was to pass on lessons for my kids and hopefully grandkids one day. But ultimately, when I made this commitment to start recording and passing on lessons to my kids and grandkids, it led to me finding my purpose. You see here the Abundant Life Blueprint. It led me to developing a whole system for how to build an abundant life with God, how to build an abundant life God's way with this Abundant Life Blueprint, and to me starting a brand new business even called the Abundant Life Training Center. So if you're somebody who has stories of what God has done in your life, you have an amazing testimony of what God has done in your life, or you have wisdom that needs to be passed on to the next generation, I want to invite you to take the Proverbs 13:22 Book Writing Challenge. If you have stories, you have steps of faith about how God has shown up in your life, or you have wisdom that needs to be passed on to the next generation, those lessons need to be recorded and they need to be passed on. Now, you might be wondering, can I really write a book? And I want to tell you, I had a lot of fears and doubts when I first started writing, but the process has never been easier. And I want to take you through in this Proverbs 13:22 book writing challenge, the process for how to get this book written and packaged and out there. Because not only is the book going to be beneficial for your kids and grandkids, but it's going to be beneficial for other people because your story is a form of prophecy. When they see what God has done in your life, it's going to give other people encouragement as well. And a book is God's chosen way to communicate. Think about it. He gave us the Bible. I once heard that a book is the most intimate form of communication. God gave us the Bible to pass on the lessons and the stories, and we can imitate him and model him and pass on books of stories and lessons that we've learned to our next generations. Now, in this Proverbs 13:22 book challenge, it's going to be a 5-day challenge of interactive training. Day 1, we're going to talk about why do we write a book? Why is it important to pass these lessons on? Then we're going to talk about how to get it written. We're going to have to overcome sometimes some mental hurdles, some mental blocks, how to get this written, some of the practical things on how to get the book written. We're going to talk about the editing process to get the book refined and polished. We're going to talk about how to get your book published and go through the process of marketing your book and getting it out there. And then we're going to talk about how do we put it all together so that your lessons are packaged and they are passed on to the next generation. So if you want to learn more about this challenge and you want to join the challenge, go to the abundantlifetrainingcenter.com/1322book. And I hope to see you there.